there's going to be times when we need to have a reset button, or there's going to be times when you're acting with intention, and yet that enemy will creep in and sort of get a hold of you and try to pull you into the ordinary world. Just like, great example that Kyle gave around, concerning with fidgeting. That might happen. All right. Well, what I just sort of articulated is an example of a ground punch to throw down, right? So it'll also, for some people, might happen more frequently when you're just starting to use it. Like, again, it's the enemy saying, oh my God, this feels so strange, or, why would you need to use this? If you were an adult, or if you were someone who was self-assured, or you were the blah, then you wouldn't need this. It's like, really? Okay, you wanna throw stones at Martin Luther King Jr.? You wanna throw stones at Winston Churchill? You wanna throw stones at David Bowie or Beyonce? Or you wanna throw stones at me? I'm not childish. I'm trying to be childlike. I'm trying to tap back into the creative imagination that I'm gifted with by using this. And I truly couldn't give a shit if someone thought that I was being childish. And I don't think you should either. So everyone's got their own battles that they need to, or dragons they need to slay. So, but when you feel yourself backsliding, that reset button that we need to hit could be tapping back into a ring that's on the table to refocus your power, or sliding your glasses on and off as a reset, right? Pulling the ring on and on again, stepping off the field and stepping back onto it as a reset. If you were on stage and you caught yourself, getting too caught up in your own head, even taking a quick step back and a quick step forward sends a different signal. And you practice that even. So you just don't do it. You practice that. You practice hitting that reset button in that moment. That's one way. And then we'll go forward and we'll kind of unpack some ground punches that you can throw down as well. So with this then, what's that reset button that you could use for the totem in those times where you feel yourself just backsliding a little bit? You can do that as a bonus quest. Okay. Mission number 4 is all about writing the honor code. I have consistently said that one of the great powers of this particular method, it's not commonly, wouldn't be talked about, but in my experience of building out so many of these powerful identities for people, is one of the key things that helped people to resonate with this concept was honoring that spirit of the source of the inspiration that you're using. So we want to write out that honor code for the totem. If you imagine that conversation, just like I talked about, where Walter Payton is saying to me as I'm grabbing those 5 cards from Geronimo's hand in my mental movie theater, but don't you dare for a second. Well, what he says, he starts off with, take these cards as a way to embody each of us out onto that field of play. And as I grabbed them and he tugged it away, Geronimo tugged it away slightly in my hands, and I felt the friction in my arm. But Walter says, but don't you dare for 1 second not show up like we would and dishonor our memory and the way that we would bring ourselves to that field of play by not showing up like we would. And that's me now getting rooted into the fact that I'm about to take this powerful force out onto the field of play. And I'm not going to do that. And this taps into an existing psychological phenomenon that many people, with the exception of basically psychopaths, don't have this, that we all have, where we are willing to do more for others than we are for ourselves. Again, just one of the really powerful parts of the alter ego. We're willing to do more for others. That's why honoring someone and something else taps into that whole idea. Well, okay, you know what? Maybe I wouldn't do this for even myself, but I will do this for other people. I will honor them. And so I'm not going to shirk and mute and dim myself by not showing up in a very powerful way. Okay. So, have that conversation, could be journaling it out. What would that look like as you honor that alter ego? Okay. And yeah, Will, you're welcome. I've shared that a bunch of times with people on stages, and everyone loves that kind of concept of of that kind of honoring moment with it. Okay, so discovering that activation event. So the final step here is that when you unite the alter ego, the totem, so you got alter ego, the totem comes together, and your field of play, or that moment of impact for you, there's that moment when you deliberately step into this form, you know, when you act with that intention. So this activation event is when everything comes together and the switch is flicked here, signaling to your mind, your body, that it's time to show up in a different way. You know, putting on the bracelet, wiping the towel across your face, sliding the baseball cap across your head, picking up your special pen, and possibly tapping it. So with this, whatever that activation event is for you, when is that going to happen? Is it when you sit down? Is it like, what is it? Play with this. And look for just even natural triggers for the action and the thing to happen. Again, anytime we can sort of use existing activities, walking through a door. You're going to be walking through a door anyway. I'm going to be walking into my home anyway. So let's have a hook right there with that bracelet sitting on there. Okay. It's easier for us to step into that routine and that habit then. Okay. Now we're going to get into one of my favorite parts, which is the ground punch. And what is the ground punch? Well, just like I was saying before, there's those moments that every superhero has in a movie when the momentum is swinging back into the favor of the enemy, or the situation is changing, momentum in the game is being lost, and you feel like you're about to lose it, and then from this kind of deep place inside, one of my favorites is that moment in Lord of the Rings when Gandalf throws the staff down as he's standing on the bridge leaving the caves, and the Balrog is coming towards him and he says, "You shall not pass." It's just this freaking rallying cry moment of kind of, this ends now, right? This ends now. This negative thinking for me ends now. This doubt that I've got about what I can do ends now. Or this doubt that you're trying to throw my way ends now. That's a disassociative way of saying it. So someone else, the enemy, is throwing it your way and I am repelling it back. So get to the sidelines type of thing. So can any of you give me some examples in movies that you've watched recently that are kind of like that ground punch moment, right? I talked about Gandalf and Lord of the Rings with the staff. There's that moment when Incredible Hulk throws his fist into the ground. That's where the ground punch kind of comes from, sending a shockwave out. Or Wonder Woman clasps her wrists together and sends out an energy wave in that moment. Anyone else seen anything recently? And it could even be subtle, where someone just slaps their hand down during a dramatic part of the movie, and it's like now they go and they do something different. Kyle says Captain Marvel choosing not to engage her mentor in physical combat and just live in her power and mission. Great. Now, was there, because I haven't seen the movie yet, Kyle, was there an actual like physical thing that happened? Like, was it like, did she do something in a different way, or did she say something in a different way? Yeah, John, multiple moments in Infinity War, like a billion. Jessica, in Secretariat, when the jockey tells Secretariat, "Let's go," and he pulls in front and leaves all of the other, "Yeah, let's go." Great phrase. Chris Field, dating myself. Sly Stallone turning his hat around in Over the Top. Oh, you're saying you're dating yourself. Yeah, totally. Over the Top, classic. Which is an arm wrestling movie. One of Stallone's greats. Thor lays down his life for the community, and Odin gives him back the hammer. Yep. Adrian, what about in Black Panther? What's the specific thing that happens? Thanos' snap. Hidden Figures when Costner rips off the, yeah. It's a great example. Yeah. Chooses to trust her own thought process and lives in an integrated scene. Okay. Picard, the line must be drawn here. Ooh, forgot all about old Picard. Great. Okay. So, you know, the truth is, like, we all need those kind of moments when we can kind of pull ourselves out of that spiral and come back to sort of to win. You know, those moments in life where just the tide, it's just throwing stuff on you. And, you know, that ground punch is that deep inner commitment to honor the heroic qualities that nest inside all of us, or to honor the alter ego even. So either one, whether it's honoring, you know, the deep understanding of what you're made of, or honoring, you know, that the alter ego has got the superpowers and can, you know, save and wield the day. So when do you need to use the ground punch? When things aren't going your way, unexpected situations, you know, unexpected situations come up. The enemy is hell-bent on pulling you away from your mission. Could be outside challenges that are happening, circumstances, situations, or there's inside forces, the enemy pulling you, going back into old narrative or whatever. Let me know in the comments, or, you know, throw in the chat here, you know, when you think you'd need to use that ground punch. Like, what are some of the common ways that you might prevent yourself right now? For some people, it might be when there is a moment of decision and you start going into procrastination mode, and that's a great spot for a ground punch. It's like, no, not now. Like, that's the old version that used to show up to these moments, not this version. You're now confronted with a brand new version that attacks decisions in a different way. But not now. And again, that's me talking back at the enemy, because the enemy says, oh, they love procrastination. Perfect. Now they're in this moment of decision. Let's tell them that they need to get more information, because that always stops them from moving forward. And because, you know, one of the purposes of the enemy is to keep you safe and not expand out, you know, they just laugh at you because they're like, oh, watch this, guys. Watch when I give them a little, you know, whisper in the ear of saying, oh, you need more information before you go and you take action. And that's when the alter ego says, oh, really? That was the old version. This one doesn't give two, you know, wags of a cat's tail about having more information, because the answer is on the field, buddy, which I am fully prepared to go out and tackle. So, when feeling flat, getting out of bed to work out when tired, just before an event, when I'm wandering around my house, avoiding reaching out to people, I need to focus and get to work. I look at the bank account and it's not at the, you know, level where I want it to be. You know, wanting something to be, you know, someplace different is great, but then the response back goes, well, that's weird. That's not me. That's not, you know, how I would value myself. So that's odd that it's there. It's actually one of the pieces of advice, or not advice, this is one of the tricks that we give athletes. Say if it's a putt and they miss their putt, you know, the response isn't to beat yourself up right away. It's, oh, that's weird, because that's not me. Disassociating yourself that the outcome is weird to you because that's not what you ever typically create. Or when you miss a free throw, it's like, well, that's not me. That's weird. It allows you to just dump it immediately. So it's not a part of, you know, you adding more to your identity as a basketball player or a golfer. So that's not me. That's weird. Like, that's not what I am. Okay. So moving forward with this ground punch stuff. So there's two types. The first method here is, the curb kick. Earlier in one of the earlier lessons, I had you kind of make note of the conversations that go on in your head, those circular bullying or kind of merry-go-round conversations that the enemy has with you in an attempt to throw you off balance. So if you remember some of those things that you wrote down, it's time for you to use that to have a quick conversation with the enemy. And you tell the enemy in kind of no uncertain terms or words that they need to get the hell off the field and sit down, shut up, go back to, that little hole that you like to crawl inside of and think that you're bigger than you are, because it's not here, not now type of situation. So, as a kind of visualization or imagery technique, imagine yourself sitting the enemy down and telling him, her, what thing, whatever, in no uncertain terms, that they got to beat it now. And so in the workbook there, you can have that conversation to help you make that happen. And again, like in the book where I'm unpacking, whether it's the skier or whether it's my client John in the book that I talk about, where I'm like, honor that history. That's like, who am I, you ask? Well, I'm the one that's woken up at 4 a.m. every single morning to get my reps in on the slopes or in the gym or whatever it might be, to get to this moment. Who am I? I'm the one that's invested 4 years for this moment just to get to the Olympics. Again, it's that great response back there. And well, that's actually in this next part for ground punch 2 is response proclamation. So, which is exactly like I just said, having a powerful response back to that question of who are you? And the first kind of step in this whole process is writing out the response. In writing out the response is to look at the journey through the lens of your wins and accomplishments. So you could be writing it in your identity form, or it could be you writing it in your alter ego's identity form as well. You can think back through your own life and make a note of all of the wins and achievements related to the field, big or small. Unpack all of it. And you can also do that again, just through the lens of that other identity that you're using. And if you want, as a, buddy up type thing with the kind of power posse or your squad, is interview each other to draw out the wins and accomplishments. And again, please unshackle yourself from the pervasive narrative that happens in society where you're not supposed to talk about your wins. Enough of that crap, right? Like, this is to help us, again, master our mental game. And I've said this before, that one of my clients, who will go down as one of the greatest soccer players of all time, is fundamentally offended that the other players are coming onto the field with him. That's a super ego approach. Now, he doesn't say that in any of his press conferences. It's just a fundamental attitude that he has, that, like, you don't work anywhere near as hard as I do. You don't have anywhere near the level of skill in, playing this game. And so now I feel like it's my job to put you in your place and show you just how big of a distance there is between you and me. And the fact that you're even sharing these blades of grass with me right now is just offensive, right? Like, it's allowed him to perform at a massively high level for a very long time. So, and then another step in this is read that response proclamation out loud first as you, or as the alter ego.